Try it again. I love this. I really do, though.
This is the fourth time now that we're trying to say this. We have more sound foam. I fixed the squares, and we now have 2 microphones. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Forrest.
And I'm Ben.
And I am not comfortable with this. That's perfect.
That's your intro.
That's perfect.
As long as we have the part in there where you mention that this is the 4th time.
So stupid. Oh, why is that so hard?
Because it is every time.
Oh,
and
my
even
God.
It'll get easier for like two months straight, and then one day we'll both sit down and we'll just do like horrible.
We'll realize how odd it is.
No, like yeah, we'll just do it. You just reset one day, and you're like you. Trust me, I don't know how many times like we got really good at doing the intro, and then still like out of nowhere I'd fuck it up, or
Yeah.
you would fuck it up.
I'm the same way when I'm making, because like when I'm doing TikToks, TikTok's 60 seconds long. It takes me about an hour and a half on average to record a TikTok because I do everything in one take, and I don't like if I stammer, if I stumble over my words, if I, this word could have been a little bit better, could have been clear, whatever. I'll redo it over and over and over, and like there are times where man, I'll crank one out in like first or second take. And I'll do that every time for like 3 or 4 videos. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm rocking it. And then all of a sudden I'll turn on the camera. I'm like, I'm do science today. It's awful.
Yep. It's like once you realize the machine is listening.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
And it also goes backwards. Sometimes I'll be in such a loop where I'll be screwing it up over and over and over. If I walk out of the room and come back and just do anything else for literally 5 seconds, I'm fine. I can rock that thing all day long. You know what I mean? It's
That's
so weird.
Crazy to think about.
So weird. But it is. It's not out of line with what I wanted to bring up. And this very freeform thing, we're gonna get off topic. But where I wanted to try to start, just for funsies, is with the concept of like free will and like what our experience actually is. And whether or not we have any control over anything, or whether it's just our brain being our brain. And I wanted to bring it up because I was doing a live stream yesterday, and somebody asked me about this, and I went on a freaking tangent about it. But I knew that I couldn't really dig into it as much as I wanted to in that format because I was trying to answer as many questions as possible.
Right. And this is the point where I customarily recommend Sam Harris again.
Much better podcast. Much better podcast. If you're looking for something to listen to, please go check him out.
But
Waking Up with Sam Harris.
I do think it's very interesting to talk about free will. I mean, my own opinions on it have changed a lot in the past couple of years.
What's been changing your opinions?
I listened to Sam Harris and read part of the book, but only part.
That'll
but
do
I mean,
it.
that and other people too. I'd have to probably think and write names down to actually remember.
Right. If I hadn't
But that's
sprung
what
this
started
on you,
me. That's what started me in that direction of even thinking about free will in that way. So that's pretty cool.
yeah. Basically, what resonates with me is that like I have my philosophy. A big part of it is that everything is a choice. Every single thing you do, even like if your emotions get the better of you, that's your choice to not make a choice at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to let your brain run rampant. But it is important to point out, and this is something that I've heard Sam Harris talk about as well as several other people, and he's one of my favorite scientists anyway, so I'll take it from him over anybody, I should say, is that even the choices we make are governed by our experiences. We can't, maybe every now and then, you might come up with a completely novel idea, but that's really relatively very rare. And just in your day-to-day life, the things that you do and think and say are largely governed by what your past experiences tell you is a possibility. And so maybe you didn't make the best decision, but maybe you couldn't have made the best decision because you haven't been exposed to the right decision in this situation. And just going off of what you have in your arsenal, in your tool belt, You made the best possible decision that you could have out of a million shitty decisions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that's kind of like that thought shakes me a bit to think about the fact that someone might not be exposed to good judgment and therefore be severely held back in the ability to make good judgment.
So it's kind of like people will empathize with somebody who's like clinically insane, right?
Yeah.
And like actually provably like cannot govern themselves. So I guess the scariest part is the fact or the realization that maybe everybody is technically clinically insane and can't govern themselves, and they govern themselves like the best way they know how, and it works out.
And that the line that we draw on what insanity is completely arbitrary.
Yeah. So like you actually, which to be fair, like it is just a bunch of stuff firing off all the time, like and chemicals and things. So like what is it doing?
Like
I don't know, scientists.
Robert Sapolsky is a neuroendocrinologist, and he's a big hero of mine. Yeah. And he talks about, in the instant that you do an action, it's not just that you have to take into account. Any behavior whatsoever, you also need to ask what was going on in the brain a millisecond before that, what was going on an hour leading up to this that may have put you in a bad mood, what was your morning like? Did you have a rough, start of your day? What has your week been like? Have you been under a tremendous amount of stress? What about this month? How's your relationships going? Your job going? Your car payments? Whatever. How was the past 5 years of your life? Are you in the right direction that you want, or are you upset, or are you confused? How was your childhood? How was your parents' childhood to give you the knowledge that you need? How was the past 5 generations of your family? What kind of socioeconomic status were they in? Has it changed? Evolutionarily, where did your clan come from that might have put? And so like you have to go back millions of years to understand any one instantaneous action. If I punch somebody in the face, what was happening 2 million years ago in Africa that made me want to punch you in the face today? And like when you put that all together, the idea of making any decision in any one particular moment seems insane. You know what I mean? It all seems like it's very much predetermined. And that's a great way to think about it. And I think that where I differ on it is that you need to acknowledge the fact that you don't know everything and that you don't have those experiences. And having that factor into the choice you make makes it a better choice. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense. I don't know if it's true.
I don't know either.
Because of free will and the way it works and doesn't work. I have no idea if what you said is even like, 1,000 years ago, some scientist.
Some scientist.
I don't know. It's terrifying to think that I might not like be in. I think everybody has been in moments they can point to and say like, okay, like I did this, and when I did that, I was not myself. Like normally
that like a
I would never do
crime of passion type of thing,
that type of situation. Yeah. So like a lot of people have been in that or experienced that, and they understand that. But like, how do you like? At what point do you switch from being somebody who is in charge of all your decisions to being a person who is not in charge of any decision making, and you're just literally reacting?
Does it count?
To stimulus.
Does it
stimulus? Stimuli.
Stimulus. It would be stimuli.
Stimulus.
Stimuluses. Does it count as a crime of passion if you can like predict it? Like if you say, because like usually crime of passion usually boils down to adultery or something like that.
Okay.
You can ask Amber. I have told my fiance for years now, if anybody touches you that you don't like in a way you don't want, like if somebody gives you a hug, whatever. But like if somebody touches you,
does a thing,
I will
in an appropriate way.
Exactly. Yeah. I will cut their hands off. You'll be the last thing they touch.
Cut their hands off.
Yeah, at least the one that they touched you with. And
that's old school.
Yeah,
that's old school punishment.
And man. I'm not a violent guy. I'm not exactly a beefy fighting.
It's always like
guy.
Really good when somebody like whispers, I'm not a violent guy, like I'm not like crazy.
Do I look crazy to you? But no, I'm not a bad, violent, crazy person. But I mean that. I carry.
No, I understand what you're saying though.
I carry a pocket knife with a tonto tip that's meant for stabbing, and I'll wedge it in between somebody's carpal bones and their wrist. There's just cartilage holding those together. A few good twists, a little sawing action, hand comes right off. Yeah. And like
people who know anatomy are scary.
Have I told you? So like no, I for my research, I had to skin a lot of humans, like a lot of them.
You look at the camera when you say that.
Oh no, we'll cut to that here. During my undergrad, for my research, I had to skin a lot of humans, and I was good at it.
Oh my God.
For real though, if you ever need a person skinned, you call me. I'm good at it.
Yeah, this is all stuff that can't be used.
You don't think we can put this on the internet?
I mean, I think we will. It's because we don't have free will. We're compulsed to do.
But
stuff.
I'm not threatening to skin anybody.
Yeah, like
I'm threatening to cut somebody's hands off.
The threat is hanging in the balance. It's like
it's implied. It's the implication of being able to skin someone. The point of all of this is, here I am just trash talking nobody on the internet. The point of all of this is, can a crime of passion be considered a crime of passion if it's planned out, or not even planned out, if you know you're capable of it? Because if I cut a dude's hands off because they touched my lady, I knew that was going to happen. I've known that for the past 8 years that would happen. If it happens, I can say honestly that I wouldn't do this in any normal circumstance. I flew into a fit of rage and I removed this man's hands. And like, he should have thought about that. Some gas station attendant trying to feel up on my girl. He should have thought about how hard it would be to count money without hands. And that's his fault, not mine. You know what I mean?
You've ended his career.
He did it. He touched her.
But he doesn't have... What if... Are we assuming this person doesn't have free will?
Oh, shit. You brought it back.
Yeah.
Their lack of free will caused them to do something egregious that my lack of free will then solved by removing their hands. is the message.
We're really not going to get to the bottom of anything.
If we keep talking about cutting people's hands off, or in general?
I think in general, because we don't actually have the answer. But like, I mean, yeah, no, like, see, the thing is of course we could do that for infinity, I think. Right?
Yeah.
So we could just keep saying like, well, yeah, because of the lack of free will, I mean, everything
this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened.
So it's like...
More like Calvinists up in here.
So like, we need to get back to something we can actually elaborate on.
You actually did that for us a while ago, in that you said that the way we treat mental illness, or like criminal insanity, you know what I mean?
Yes.
If you're insane, then you can't make these choices. So here's the question: does insanity, like some psychosis, can be treated? You know?
Yeah. Criminal
insanity usually boils down to like, they can't comprehend the consequences. They can't comprehend what's going on. But take, like a psychopath. You're run-of-the-mill Ted Bundy, Ed Gein, whoever. Somebody who does these heinous, horrible acts. We don't classify them as, too insane to be tried, because they know exactly what they're doing. They knew the consequences, whether they wanted to do these things. What if that was treatable too? What if you could do some sort of surgery, a pill, a protein shake, whatever, and now this person is no longer a psychopath, and they're like, oh shit, probably shouldn't have eaten all those women, and they're completely cured. You would not treat that in a way that would be like, you wouldn't come at that person with the same hate anymore. You'd be the same way as like, oh, you have cancer, you have the cold, you have psychopathy, we're gonna cure it. You know what I mean? It would be totally, totally different. Would you agree with that, or do you think that you would still say, hey, you still murdered these people?
I think to the victims, they would probably, for the most part, by and large, not agree, because they'd still be wanting revenge.
Right.
The other thing is that's really scary, because you went kind of extreme with it and went into serial killer. You named off 3 right off the bat. So what's interesting is, like, in a case like that is, what if you come up with a pill and now this person's cured? Mm-hmm. They're not going to commit these crimes anymore because it's not in them.
Right.
Well, Ted Bundy doesn't take his medication for a week.
Right.
Okay.
And now he's back to
so obviously, even if you're
slicing
not, so
people.
you don't put them away for murder, you don't give them the death penalty, but they still have to go somewhere where a guy makes sure they take their don't kill people medication every day.
Don't kill people medication.
Which is kind of what we do with in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Like people when they're found insane, they usually have to go somewhere and stay there, and they have to take their medication.
What about an example that's a little bit more realistic then? Like there was a case not too long ago.
Horrible because now they know that they're fucked up and they're sitting there and they're totally sober for it.
In
But
this
all the fun
box.
murder is over.
They can't. The time for murder has passed. I'm in a new part of my life.
I paint. Lots of them do it.
Painting.
Lots of them make art in prison, and it sells for a lot of money. They usually, from what I understand, they usually aren't supposed to get any of the proceeds.
Right. You can't make a profit.
Which I guess is not really fair if you
really boil it down.
If you're capitalists.
You should let serial killers keep their painting money. They need to earn a living.
How are they going to buy more supplies?
For art or murder. I invest in knives.
But yeah, so maybe a better example, not better, because I think serial killers are a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Talk about and stuff. Obviously, meeting one is horrific. But,
Usually.
But yeah, usually, unless they're already caught and now you're the one interviewing them, you're having a fun
What if
conversation.
you just do? What if they don't feel like serial killing you?
That actually, I mean, that happens.
It's like that.
There's a lot of people that they didn't kill.
It's more than they did, and that's when you look at it that way. Could you blame them? I mean, we've all not killed a lot of people. They just happen to also kill some of them.
Yeah, but they're doing a really fucked up way.
Bang up job at killing them. Just
sometimes it's like really bad. So we can't get off on this. But there's a lot of different kinds of serial killers too. And why they kill is different from killer to killer, and like what they're trying to get out of it is different.
Right.
Usually it's an orgasm. But what causes the orgasm is different.
For everybody. Different strokes for different folks. We get that. Take a more reasonable example. It was aside from serial killers. There was a case not too long ago of a kid who was very rich. He grew up insanely wealthy. And he was tried because he was driving and just ran over some people and could not have given less of a damn about doing it. And at the trial, he said, like, they're poor. Who cares? Like, they're poor people. They barely deserve to be alive in the first place. Me taking off the planet hurts nobody. Fuck it. What does it matter? And that was his defense. And I believe he got off on being criminally insane because people were like, this kid has been so stunted in his understanding of like basic human rights and dignity by growing up insanely rich. He was taught that he is literally fundamentally better, worth more than everybody else. And so that's not his fault that he murdered these people by running them over because he was just having a jolly afternoon.
I seem to remember that case.
I would call that, a crazy sociopathic. I'm not a psychologist, so I'm using this term colloquially, but like that's a crazy thing that happened. And I would argue that is something that's treatable. If you took this person out and actually gave them real world experiences and showed them what life is really like in the world, they would never behave this way again. They'd be horrified by their actions. They would change them at like a deep fundamental level. Just like the serial killer pill.
So there's no like serial killer test or sociopath or psychopath. Like it's not like you can't really definitively nail it down every time 100%. But there is enough shit they can do.
They can classify it.
Yeah, and they can do brain scans of somebody and figure out like if they're likely to be a sociopath or something like that. Did they do anything like that with him in his case? Do you even know?
I have no idea.
That'd be something. That'd be something I'd be interested to find out. Is like I'm sure they did something because they had to have somebody come up and be a witness as a psychologist or something.
Right.
And say like he does not know what he's doing.
And we should point out the fact that we like, and I said this a second ago, but I want to say it again just to be very clear. We're using these terms colloquially. We're saying sociopath and psychopath in the common interchangeable this means crazy person way.
I am not an expert.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not sociologists, psychologists. We have no experience in psychoanalysis or counseling. That being said, what I do know about it is that they are so very similar that they're usually classified as the same antisocial personality disorder. There are tiny little fundamental differences that I can't even begin to get into. But there are lots and lots of people who are sociopaths and psychopaths that are totally normal functioning human members of society. They just happen to go into careers that suit people like that. Surgeons, CEOs, executives, those people actually lack this ability to care about human suffering, and they just happen to do it in a way that actually benefits people sometimes.
Sometimes. There's that argument that like to make it in a in a capitalistic society, you have to be a psychopath.
And I've thought about that because like we just talked about a while ago.
It's dog eat dog.
Yeah. As we just talked about a while ago, I've cut up a lot of people. And, like, the people in the classes...
They were already dead.
They were already dead.
When he found them.
In all fairness. But, like, even still, these are in medical classes, and a lot of the people around me had a problem. They had to get past it. They had to think about it differently. I remember one time, the cadaver, his eyes were open, and the kids couldn't handle that. It was looking at them while they were cutting it. Very common for them to name their cadavers, for them to have funerals for them to really care about them. I remember reading an article about like these big funeral services. They would have like these mass funerals for the cadavers at the end of the semester at this medical school. And this girl recounts they were like defleshing this guy, and she was just holding his hand and stroking it tenderly, like she was soothing him. And she's like had to remember like, oh, this isn't a person anymore. This is a
body,
a chunk of meat now.
Yeah.
And me, I've never once had an issue. I know full well that this was a human being. It's not lost on me. I'm not playing like this is a toy. You know what I mean? But if I'm going to waggle a lung at somebody and laugh about it, that's going to happen. And it's like not, and I'm not trying to desecrating this corpse and to be disrespectful. It's just like I'm able to see this for meat.
I think you're still on the side of like not being a complete piece of shit. But
that's the goal.
Because like there is the thing. I mean, like, you know, if I feel like if I were to do something like that, I would understand that it is a body and I'm doing this to try to learn something, not because like it doesn't. I wouldn't be like, I still care that a person died.
Yeah.
But but they're dead. They're gone.
Right. They're not going to care about what I'm doing.
And they obviously donated their body or something.
My dad donated his body to science.
Yeah,
he died of cancer. Man was more tumor than human at the time that he died. He was riddled with it. And he donated his body. And I'm dead serious, man. I wish I had gotten to cut him up and look and see what that was like. I would love to have known.
That's pretty crazy.
And I know full well like the full suite of dissection that happens. Like they open your face, they do a craniotomy, open your head, everything. I would be so into it. And I don't know if that makes me weird or crazy, but I don't give a shit, and I'm jealous of the people who got to see.
A little weird and a little crazy, but I also know that you wouldn't like have taken your living dead and started an autopsy.
Not without his permission.
And that's. I was gonna say that's the difference, but then you kind of, you like ruined that completely. It's irredeemable. We can't even do this show.
Oh God!
We're all just cadavers to Forrest. Jeez.
I still want to do and this. I don't want to get off on this too much.
Are you like fucking dissecting me with your eyes right now? Can you stop?
I still want to do a podcast about death someday. I want to talk in depth about, and this might be the one. We might be able to get on there. We're talking about crime. We're talking about psychopaths. Might as well talk about what it is to be a deadman.
I would hate to talk about death.
Really?
Well, not ever. I'm totally fine with covering it at some point. I just don't know if I want to cover it after 2020.
Not to get down the road. We can change back. But just out of curiosity,
anything.
What's your hang up with death? Why didn't you want to talk about it? Like what hits you where you're like,
I'm fine with it. I'm more afraid of me dying than anything else usually.
Right.
Which I know is selfish, but it's the truth.
Well, that makes sense.
I don't want to die. Obviously, I don't want anything to happen to like my wife or my children, but I really don't want to die. And if I do die anytime soon, I hope it's like.
I just want it to be in a cool way.
I don't want to be in pain.
No, but I just want...
The biggest hang up, though, is that we lost 3 family members this past year.
Oh, really?
And it's like,
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that.
People are taking it very hard.
That makes sense. So
And
you
I
wouldn't
don't-
want to
I
put that
wouldn't
back
wanna
out in the ether.
necessarily do that. Obviously, I can talk about it, but then I just know for sure that it would be a podcast that one wouldn't get listened to by that person.
Right. And then
Which
they have
is
to deal with
fine,
that again.
because that's fine. They may never listen to any of them. Who knows? You know.
We'll set that on the back burner then. We'll
But
come
it's-
back to death as a proper podcast.
I feel
someday.
like between you and I, we'll come back to it frequently.
Oh, for sure. It's one of my favorite things to talk about.
Yeah. No. Well, it's crazy to think about
Yeah.
because it's coming.
It's always coming.
There's nothing you can do about
Each
it.
breath draws you closer.
Then sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, and this has been happening for about 5 years now. I'll just wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat. Remember, my brain's just like, hey, don't forget, you used up another day.
It's going to be all over soon.
Yeah, you used up, and I'm like, I don't need to know this. I need to sleep so I can go to work tomorrow. My
And do
brain's
the
like,
thing that I need to
my
do.
brain's like, yeah, freak out though, because you haven't been doing anything you want to.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
See,
thank you.
I struggle with that so much.
But it's
is
like
that-
a real thing. It
Yeah.
sucks.
I don't remember if we talked about this last time or not. I don't think we did. But like that is something that I struggle with. Is if I'm working really, really hard on my goals and my dreams, and I'm really making progress, and I'm seeing like, hey, dreams are coming true, I'm getting there, I am so upset that I'm not spending time just chilling on the couch with Amber doing nothing, playing video games, giving her a foot rub, playing Hearthstone. Like that's all I want to do. If I'm doing that, the only thing on my mind is like, you haven't put out a video in like a day. You haven't written anything. You haven't done any research. How's your homework going? How's your schooling going? Have you even tried today? Have you even gotten on the treadmill today? What's wrong with you? You wasted. And then I'll go do those things, and I'm like, damn, I wish my lady. I miss my lady. I wish I was just hanging out. And I'm constantly in the struggle of like, I'm either wasting my life by not trying hard enough, or I'm wasting my life by trying too hard. And either way, I'm going to be on my deathbed like, man, I wish I'd done the other thing. And all I want.
And that's bullshit.
All I want is just to find a balance.
Fucking bullshit. It is. Life is about finding balance. Anybody who knows anything will dispense that wisdom.
Yeah.
I've had numerous people who I would consider like are good or successful or at least kind.
Yeah.
And they all seem to bring that up at some point.
Yeah.
So
that was one of the last things my grandma ever said to me. It was I told my grandma that, and she said if you I forgot how she phrased it exactly, but she just said like if you're thinking about that just means you're smart enough to think about that, and now you can move on. It was basically how she said it. Just like, you now know your brain is working. Please continue on with the rest of your life. And like,
some good advice.
I wanna be good at that. And I also, this is another thing, and I hope this helps somebody. Like, because I know the Rumpelstiltskin effect with any kind of mental anguish, knowing that it has a name and that people suffer from it and that it is identifiable, takes away a lot of the stress. I hope that this helps somebody, is to know that like I'm constantly beating myself up for not getting this right and for not knowing how to experience life and not knowing how to feel. I'm also 28. I'm at the time where I'm supposed to be figuring that out. And like, shame should have already mastered everything. If you feel so ashamed of yourself for not getting it right because you haven't had the opportunity to learn how to do it right, because you're still doing the thing that you're still living, you're still doing the thing that you're experiencing. That, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and the real fear comes, I think, too, with that is if you start comparing yourself, because there's always going to be somebody your exact age who's done a million more.
oh
things
God,
than you,
yeah, oh yeah.
For whatever reason. I mean, I don't know how they did it with all that lack of free will, but
That we did touch on last time is that you have to be jealous of all the suffering and misery as well.
Exactly, yeah.
I would not want a life where I was a billionaire at 18. That sounds awful.
Yeah, what produces that type of person?
Yeah, no. Then what's the consequence of that?
It's probably good.
If I had $1 billion,
I don't know, immense wealth, yeah, at such a young age, it's
yeah,
pretty terrifying.
if I had $1 billion at 18, I would have been an asshole with it. I would have been useless as a human being. Wouldn't have done anything for anybody. I would have. I would have gone out and tried to save the whole damn world,
Yeah,
and
you
I would
would've
have
run out of
been.
money.
I would have been the biggest douchebag about it. Like, oh,
Would you be
yo-
like one of those guys like now what you have like on TikTok and YouTube?
the ones that go out and film themselves throwing money at homeless people?
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I don't like the way you do it. I don't. It's one thing when they hand a guy like a bunch of bills,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh my god,
Yeah.
And they're like, and then I like it also if they do it really quick. They're like, hey.
Yeah.
Or if they just give it to them and then they drive away and they don't even know until later they open the bag. It's supposed to be, they thought it was a sandwich and there's like a bunch of money in there. And they can get an apartment now and maybe find a job. Like, that's cool. It's hard for me because I know a lot of people will be like, oh, it's shitty to do anything like that. It is shitty to do it for views, but also that dude's still getting a leg up.
Right. It's not like it's bad for him. But like, I totally understand, like, if you ask that guy, like, hey, can I put you on the internet? Because it makes sense that you want to get the views to get more money to do that again. I totally understand that.
Right.
Like, there's that totally. What pisses me off is when. Like,
I don't
you have,
like this.
See, exactly, when they're like making it rain. Yeah.
I don't like that. It's
when
not
you
a
have some
strip
asshole
club.
like Rice Gum going out there and making it rain and like, look, I'm such a charitable dude. No, you're a cunt and a half, and you just went out here and fucking sprinkled money on a poor man that he has to pick up off the ground and be grateful for you for making him this spectacle. Like,
you
no.
You look like a piece of shit.
Give them dignity and money, please. Like, that's not too much to ask.
A little bit of both.
Like, that's when we did all the work. So for context, for those listening, when Ben and I were young, I started a charity company thing, and we went around.
Real charity.
It was great, and we went around collecting donations, and we gave out all sorts of food and all sorts of clothes. Like we gave thousands and thousands of dollars of stuff away, but it was unsustainable for us because we didn't know what the fuck we were doing because we were 19-year-old kids.
Yeah,
you
fresh out of high school.
you dumped in a dumpster with me one time to get a bunch of
We
toys.
did. We got. It was summer toys.
Yeah, and that company, whatever it was throwing them all away, and they, rather than donating them, they just damaged them out and threw them in a dumpster. So you and I sneaked into their facility at night and jumped in the dumpster and pulled out all these toys, cleaned them, and then I wrapped them in.
He called the police on us and asked them if it was okay because I was like, I don't think we're supposed to be doing this.
I was like, I'll prove it to you,
dude. And a cop
dude.
car drove by. We did have permission from an employee. An employee gave us a heads up, said they were going to not damage them and put them out there so we could take them and be done.
Yeah. But that employee also had to hide that from her boss. Because the boss wanted them to never make money.
Extremely, like...
And so I called the non-emergency line. I'm like, hey, just out of curiosity, settle a bet for me. Are you going to arrest me if I steal trash? And they're like, probably not. Cool, bet. Hang up.
Yeah. And then we emptied the dumpster into a fucking PT Cruiser. Yeah, with magnets on the side.
Yeah, it was great. And then we cleaned the toys and we wrapped. I gift wrapped all of them along with, we got a bunch of other toys donated as well. And I wrapped them all up and we took them to the children's shelter here in town for Christmas. And I got one of our other friends who just got out of the army. He was a real big guy. I got him to put on a Santa Claus costume, and every kid got to come over and get. I forgot what were we talking about with this? How do we get off on this tangent?
We were just talking about context for a hero.
Well, yeah, but like, what were we to get to this point? Shit.
Well, if we can't remember, we did record it.
We were talking, right? Yeah, that'll help us. We'll go back and check the recording, and then finish this conversation next week.
When we were kids, we did charity works.
Thank you. Great. Oh, so we were talking about giving money and also treating people with dignity.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about Rice Gum and the Poor Folk.
Rice Gum and the Poor Folk. Yeah.
Whoa.
That sounds like a shitty children's novel. The Legend of Rice Gum and the Poor Folk.
It's a graphic novel.
Good news, poors. Rice Gum is back.
Okay, we're gonna get sidetracked.
So the point is, when we did these things, when we did the Christmas donations, when we did the Easter egg hunt, when we did the Thanksgiving donation, we did all this different stuff. We made sure to include the facilities that we were working with. We weren't just there to like, hey, here's a shit ton of clothes piece. They were like, hey, what works for you? What do you need? We made sure to go meet the clients and meet the people that were there and like, hey, what do you want? What would make your life better? And that's why, like, with the Thanksgiving donation, we ended up donating a lot less than we could have with the money that we had raised because we didn't want to just do a fuckload of ramen noodles. We were like, hey, what actually is best? And they're like, oh, canned meats. Shocking. Cool. We bought a fuckload of canned meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, so it's not that hard.
They actually
if
didn't
you
want the stuff that other people were suggesting.
yeah.
That's what we had a lot of people tell us, like, oh, you should do this and this and this. But then whenever we would call the places we were planning on donating to,
They're like, please
they would be
don't.
like, no, we don't need that. One time I remember we were trying to get food together for the Laura Dester shelter, I think.
Yeah.
Or someplace. They're gone now, so I don't think it matters that I use their name.
Nah, probably not.
But it was a women's shelter, women and children's shelter, and we called them to ask, like, hey, what kind of things do you need? And we were talking about food, and they were like, first of all, they were like, who are you? and we were like, well, we're a charity, blah, 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 blah. And then we told them, and they were like, oh, well, if you can, they said, we don't need food. We get food all the time.
Yeah.
We need toiletries.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Toilet paper, shampoo, deodorant, toothpaste,
Yeah,
toothbrushes.
like menstrual pads and things.
Yeah, menstrual pad, like all that stuff, tampons. They were like, any of that you can get, we need it. We never have enough.
Right.
And I was like, oh, they need stuff
that makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I was like, they need.
Yeah. And that's what makes sense about
ramen. They
exactly.
don't need any more noodles. They want to smell.
You can't soak up your period with noodles, guys.
Like basic stuff.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like the it's so not hard to, because obviously you're giving charitably. You're doing this thing. It's very easy to put yourself on this pedestal, but it's really, really not that hard to be like, okay, this is a human being. I have a little bit more than I need. They have a little bit less than they need. Let's sort something out. Rather than, I'm going to get 1 million likes by doing this shit. Like, just stop for 1 second and think about the fact that they're not consenting to be in your video of 1 million likes. You know what I mean? Exactly. They didn't want to be seen in this way. Maybe they're not happy with it. Like, it's not that fucking hard.
Is that a sociopathic behavior? Making it rain on...
Using it the same colloquially way that we've been doing... Colloquially. The same colloquial way in which we've been using it. We've used the word colloquial like 6 times this time. We need to stop.
It's a fun word.
It's
a
good
really
word.
Said it at all.
In the same informal way that we've been using it this whole time, I would call it that. Yes, you're being an asshole and like exploiting somebody else and their suffering for your economic gain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lame. It's real lame. That's the point of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Throwing money at homeless people is lame.
I think we have some more time to.
Oh God. And that also we another thing that stems from this that's like, you know, we could tie in here. We talked about whether you're really truly responsible for these behaviors. We talked about experience being a big part of it. We haven't also talked about punishment. We touched on it briefly about putting people in cages.
We're getting to it.
Yeah.
Well, so like the fact that we even thought to try to, like, especially you, because you did it, you made the charity. So the fact that we even did that at that age, is that like normal? And that wasn't free will? That was influenced by our experience?
I would argue, yeah. Because we both grew up very poor, and we both knew what it was like to be in those situations. Both of us know what it's like to get food from charity. And so we decided to start doing that backwards, you know what I mean? To start, and the reason why we, like, for context for those people out there, the reason why I teach science now is because I realized that what we were doing was treating the symptoms of poverty and not curing the disease. And the disease is cured by education, especially the education of women. Because that's over and over and over, you see the empowerment of women, giving them rights over their own bodies, over their own destinies, giving them at least an 8th grade education is, I think, the turning point, isn't that right? The tipping point for like ending poverty is like 8th grade education, I believe. Like that's what cures it, rather than just throwing Tylenol at a severed leg. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
like, but that's why we changed this. That's why you don't hear us talking about this in modern terms. But no, I think it was to do with our experience. I think if we had grown up exceedingly rich, if we had grown up, really well off, with happy together families and lots of food, we wouldn't have done that. And if we had, we would have done it poorly. We would have done a bad job. And like I said, we would have been jerks about it. Because we thought that we were special and we were out there being the saviors of mankind, giving people food and stuff. And that's no way to behave. I think it absolutely had to do with our experience.
Crazy to think of, because like that makes it seem like I'm only a good person because I went through shit.
I'm not saying that, but I'm kind of saying that.
Like that makes it seem like, oh, like if I had had a better childhood, I'd just be an asshole now. With like, but I'd still have like money.
Yeah, so at least there's that.
So I'd be like, maybe I would have gone to college longer and better.
And better.
I don't know.
Well, no, that's the thing is that like it's. I'm not saying that you can't be good unless you grew up hard. Like that's not at all what I'm getting
Right,
at.
no.
But
Plenty
like
of people are.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
There are plenty of people
like,
grow up in that lifestyle, the rich lifestyle. You know? But like, and then they go the other way and they like hurt people or kill people or murder, drugs, mayhem, whatever.
Right. I'm just saying that like there's definitely an influence when you experience that, or at least are exposed to that. A good friend of mine, somebody I look up to a lot. He's a doctor of education. He teaches at Tulsa Community College. He has more than enough qualification to teach anywhere else, and he does. But he mainly focuses on TCC because he wants to reach out to the diverse community and to the just everybody here on the bottom with us. He doesn't want to go teach at some Ivy League place. And one of the things that he attributes that to, he grew up in Cuba, and his dad was a politician and a lawyer, very well off. He was wealthy in Cuba. And his dad took him around to all the poorest parts of the country and said, look at these people. It is not their fault that they're here. These are human beings. We need to help them, or we need to work for them. We need to take care of them. And he came over here with Project Peter Pan, which was right before the Bay of Pigs or something like that, right before the missile crisis, whatever the hell it was. Right before the embargo meant nobody's coming over here anymore. Yeah. The U.S. went and literally airlifted out children from Cuba and just dropped them off all across the country. And he lived with a black family for a long time until his parents could finally make it over, and then they got back together. And growing up rich in a poor country, seeing these poor people, then coming to America, living in a black family for a while, seeing how America treats minorities, and then starting again from the bottom of America. He had, he talks about going to places that had signs up that on their apartments that said, no perros, no niños, no cubanos, no dogs, no children, no Cubans, you're not allowed here. And feeling how awful that felt to be so ostracized in this country that he was now trying to be a part of. That made him who he is. And as a result, he not only taught at that university, but he became the dean of diversity for the college. He helped bring people in. He dedicated his life to making sure that everybody felt included. He's a hero of mine. And those experiences are what made him that. You know what I mean? He didn't just wake up one day and decide, hey, I better wonder what I could be doing to help more people. These are the things that, like, from the very beginning, from the bottom of his mind, he's been building up this person that he is. So I think that, our upbringing plays a big part in it. And I think that anybody can get there. Yeah. They just have to be able to get outside of their comfort zone, get out of their bubble, and go see how real human beings suffer and live in this world. You know?
That's crazy.
And it's not as easy as go get a job.
I know.
No,
it's not. I'm so lost now that we've been talking about it and like talking about our past. I'm so lost in like trying to understand my own free will.
Shit.
And I'm just like, what's interesting is I realize that we're listening to you talk, like the things I want to do, like they've gone from I want to do this, so I get recognition, and so I have people listen to me finally. They'll finally fucking listen.
Yeah.
It's, and all that shit. Like it's gone from that over the past like 5 years from me like really making this push. Like I'm gonna do something to like because I have to do it for myself.
Yeah.
It's kind of switched from that to like I have to figure out how to make something that other people can like get a paycheck from.
Yeah.
That other people can like it's so weird to think about. Like I've gone from like I want to open a studio because that's what I want to do. It's I want to open a studio because I know people who could work there that need jobs.
Yeah.
I want to open a studio because I don't want to get rich. I just want to pay my bills. I want to make a thing that is capable of helping other people pay their bills.
Right.
And live a normal life.
That's I feel the same way because we grew up being unheard. We were just at the bottom of the barrel. And like, a lot of, I remember talking to you about it for our whole teenage years. All we wanted to do was get big and famous and powerful and rich and make the world.
And then we'd fix everything.
Exactly. And then we get around it. And now it's like, no. I'm going to work on fixing everything. If I get big and famous doing it, cool. I'll use that clout and leverage to fix more things. Not like, I would hate to be rich. honest to God, I would rather die, and I'm not exaggerating.
I just want to be okay.
Then, like, I'm not saying like I wouldn't want to have a good bank account. I'm saying like be a
you want a
billionaire.
healthy bank account. You want to be wealthy.
Exactly, but I would
rich.
rather die than be a billionaire.
What's the fucking point?
To be that self-important that there's people that are like 24,000 children starve to death every fucking day. Every day, children die of hunger and preventable disease before they hit the age of 5. If I had $1 billion and that was going on, it's not just selfish, it's evil. It would drive you insane. It would kill me.
Or
it kills me now.
You're not thinking about it.
It kills me now and I'm broke. And I'm like, what am I not doing enough of to try to fix, XYZ problem? Flint doesn't have water. Still, by the way, in case you didn't know that, what am I doing in this moment to make sure that those people are able to drink clean water? Not enough.
What even could you do?
Exactly. And that tears me up inside. The thought that I might be sitting here on a fucking gold mine. Like, oh yeah, that sucks.
Well, and the worst part is the politicians who use that piping system, they didn't even have any free will.
They didn't have any free will. They grew up in a way that taught them that it was okay to abuse those people.
Fuck.
And that's the thing. That's exactly the point that I was trying to make at the beginning, was that you're only exposed to so many things. And those things make... However, acknowledging that, you're able to go out and get more experiences. And the more experiences you have, and the more people that you meet, and the more you get around different people, the more you're going to have more ammunition, more tools in your tool belt to affect change and to do good things. If you're a politician, you have to go meet hundreds and thousands of people and hear their issues, at least enough to know how to bullshit them into voting for you. But like this dude who runs the state knows very well exactly what the consequences of those actions are.
Yeah.
So it's not like he doesn't have the free will because he doesn't know. He doesn't have the free will because he doesn't give a shit. And that's different.
That's different.
Yeah.
How do we figure out who the fuck is using their free will and who's not?
And this is all to say also, I should point out, that like, at no point during any of this am I trying to make any excuse for anything. At the end of the day, I think that everything is a choice.
Everyone knows we're dumb and we don't know what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, just to clarify, because I'm trying to solve the arguments in the comments before they happen.
Yeah, the whole concept with the whole is free will like real versus is it not real? Like it's so kind of like new.
Yeah.
And also so complex that we really can't make it make sense.
Yeah.
So I don't even we're not even trying to do that.
No,
we're literally just having a discussion about it, and wow, isn't that interesting?
Bullshitting about our lives.
Yeah, but
so 30 people on the internet can watch it.
So in that case, though, right? Thinking about our lives and thinking about our experiences, if you take all that into account, then you could see very easily how people would end up in prison.
Yeah.
What do you think of prison, Forrest?
I'm not a fan. And that's the show.
Is it the many problems and fucking more problems and then the other problems?
So like it's one of those. So first of all, just on its face, not super into the idea of punishment as the only solution. I think that it has its place. I think that sometimes you need to get knocked on your ass to understand that you don't need to do this anymore. I get that. I'm also super into the idea of rehabilitation and counseling and teaching and saying, hey, maybe this isn't the best way to manage your life and we can try something different. I think that most of the time people would benefit from that.
Yeah.
And I'm not so calloused.
I think it's workable and there's real examples of that happening in other places.
Yeah.
So you can see that there's a way to do it.
Yeah, I'm not so callous to say that human nature is to be violent and people need to be caged or something. You know what I mean? I don't think so at all. I do, however, think that there's some people that are just so damned dangerous and they're determined to be dangerous that it's not worth our time to try to fix your life. If you're determined to make everybody else's life shitty, you don't get to play the game that we call society anymore. And I totally get the argument that at the end of the day, that's taking away someone's freedom, and what freedom do you have to take away another person's freedom? I get that. I really do.
Well, we all decided together.
But it's either we put you in a box or we throw you out into the wilderness. And I can't say which one's more humane. It just doesn't make any sense. We can't have an island of all the criminals because that just doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? If we're going to have a society and we're going to say these are the rules, then fine.
We can't.
That's another podcast.
Because we did.
Several times that has happened in history. And we got Australia out of it. So who can say that's a bad thing?
Got Australia. Lots of people can say Australia is a bad thing. You know how many serial killers are in Australia?
You know how many spiders in Australia?
No, just the people. The animals are bad enough, but then you add the people onto it, and they're all living in the woods.
All of Australia.
No, there's some really beautiful places in Australia.
Do you hear me?
But they have a bit of a
Do you hear me, Australia? You fuck all of you.
No, you're wonderful. Like we don't have any listeners there yet, but some
Forrest and Ben hate Australia.
No, but they have a lot of like fucked up shit going on in like the outback.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure that I know they have some racism issues, and I know
yeah. I don't know if Americans can talk about that.
We're in no place to judge.
We're definitely dealing with a couple things right now.
But like it's not a perfect place. They've got their own culture. They've got their own issues. I'm just saying the penal colony system kind of seemed to work out because you got a cool country out of it that has way more progressive laws than this place does.
Yeah,
just saying.
Point. That's just because for some reason we're like really far back on certain things.
America has this weird like obsession with a past that doesn't exist.
And also I think we're like, I'm not going to do that because you did it. I'm not going to do it because
you exactly. Yeah. Well, you want to be like one of these socialist countries like England? What? Like, I remember when the Affordable Care Act passed. And everyone's like, I don't want Obamacare. I don't want socialized medicine. I'm going to go move to Germany. Germany has socialized medicine, you fucking idiot. You know what I mean?
I just wish Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act had been like actually
good.
Useful.
It's better than it was.
It's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing.
It is better than nothing, but they also like I want to see.
There's a lot of problems that were built into it on purpose to make it problematic.
Yes,
and that sucks.
That's unfortunate.
It's real lame. It's real lame. But like no, when and this is so far outside of our wheelhouse. My God, or at least when insurance companies under the Affordable Care Act weren't allowed to hike their prices arbitrarily. And so right before it passed, they all jacked their prices like crazy. Yeah. And everyone's like, see, it's driving up insurance. No. That's what they've been doing we're stopping that. What you're seeing is what we don't like, and you don't like it either. And you're blaming them on what? Oh, it's so weird, man. Yeah. It's so weird. If I had any grump, if I could summarize my grump with this country, it would be the fact, and I've said this a million times, is that we know from kindergarten that everybody needs food and water and shelter and medicine and love to survive. They all need those things. Everybody needs it. And somehow, in an age where we have fucking shipping aircrafts flying huge, where we have cell phones where we can access any knowledge in the world in an instant, where we have malaria treatments and testing kits that are made out of cardboard that you can take out into the jungle, where we have life straws, where we have SpaceX. In this world, we're still scrounging around in the dirt like animals for scraps, trying to get food and water and shelter and medicine and love. We still are trying to deal with that when we have fucking footprints on the moon. Fuck off if you're telling me that we can't handle that because that's socialist, because that's going to ruin the economy. We literally have the military telling Congress to stop giving them so much money. They keep increasing the Pentagon budget and shit, and the Pentagon's like, hey, don't give us any more money. We don't need it. And we're like, here's $1 billion more. And then we're like, hey, can I have
a button I can press
to stop my insane rant? God. Fuck that.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But then also prisons.
Are we on prisons? Where we go? Where were we?
I don't know. You were talking about Congress. Again.
That sentence is our friendship. That's the past 13 years of our life.
It really is.
What were we talking about? I don't know. You were talking about Congress again.
Again.
No, since we're on politics and prison, how about the fact that we have privatized prisons in this country?
There we go. I've been trying to get the word privatized prisons out for a while.
You haven't been able to figure it out, have you?
No. Well, I know what the word is. I just Congress. And so privatized prisons are obviously fucking dumb.
Well, yeah, because if you spend
you're incentivizing imprisonment.
if you spend trillions of dollars building a place to put humans, you're gonna want humans to go in there. And so you're gonna what? How dumb is that? How do you not see that that's an issue? Especially since several states have quotas with these prison companies.
Yes,
that they have to fill.
They have to fill it.
That you cannot have justice.
So they're just throwing people.
The term justice does not sync with the term quota. Those two words can't coexist logically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Quota. Yeah, because I do agree though. The idea of a prison should be it all.
Excuse me. Quota. Go on.
The idea for all prisons should ultimately be you want to get everyone out.
Yeah.
Back into the world technically, and if you can't, those are the people that have to stay in prison.
You house them
for life.
Right.
Right, but the idea, we do need to come up, and I really like what you said earlier about prison is a part of it, right? We do have to have prisons, probably, at least for now.
Probably.
It'd be cool if maybe we get to a point someday where humanity doesn't need to take certain members and imprison them.
Right.
But for now, we know we need prisons to an extent. What other buildings could we make for maybe less harsh problems that we need to deal with? This guy got caught shooting up heroin.
Yeah.
Send him to fucking prison.
Right.
It's no, and I know that we're getting better with stuff like that, but not fast enough and not intelligently enough. I don't feel.
Doesn't really seem to solve the
rehab, but
problems.
rehab's really the kind of place you get to go to rehab if you had enough money and you said you had a problem before they caught you.
Right.
But if it's too late and you're addicted to whatever hard drug it is,
yeah,
we'll use hard drugs as an example because it's just easier to see. It's easier I think most people can picture that.
Yeah.
If you have a real problem with substance abuse, you're definitely lacking free will. And this was something I had to get over myself because to me, I still struggle with it because I've been on substances, I've been on different things in my life, and I know no matter what I've ever been on, there's certain lines I didn't cross.
I've been on substances is a great way to say that.
But I think I don't want to talk about what I've done.
Right. No, I get you.
But I've done a lot, and I think with a lot of the things, when I was definitely addicted to things, I think some of the boundaries didn't get crossed, because there's such hard boundaries for me, theft, and things like that. I never broke into those realms because to me it was I don't know, I just don't.
Yeah.
Because I don't have the free will, I guess.
You can't muster it.
I can't do it. I don't want to do it.
No.
And I will not do it unless I think the only time I can think of maybe stealing is if I had to do it to feed my kids.
If you're starving, yeah.
Maybe not even if I'm starving, but if they're starving, I could see myself doing it. If they're starving, I could see myself doing a lot of fucked up shit.
Right.
But that's where the line gets blurred because it's well, if I'm doing it for them, but even then it's still I have hard limits on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's really hard to understand how a person can be oh, well, I was on this drug when I did that, and that's why I did that thing, or that's what kept me from realizing I was doing the wrong thing at that time. Even though it makes sense to me.
Right.
It makes perfect and complete sense to me because I'm intelligent enough and I understand enough about the brain to know, which is not much, but I still understand enough to be okay, yeah, if your brain is fucked up and it's messed with,
right,
you're not going to make a decision you might normally make, right? But it's my brain doesn't want to consolidate those two facts, those two opinions and beliefs together. I still want to hold a drug addict accountable.
I get that. I get that there's a difference between accountability and judgment. That you're not saying I'm looking down on this person for making these choices. It's just you did in fact make these choices. you need to make it better. You need to atone for it. You can't make it perfect, but you can make it better.
Yeah, and I'm very much not in favor of like killing people who took drugs. Or
right,
anything. Like,
right.
I don't think they should be in prison usually.
Yeah, and that's the vast majority of people in the American prison system is nonviolent drug offenders, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, and so like,
and among other things that we can definitely go into depth about.
I understand that because addiction is a crazy thing, and it's not as easy as just saying, "Oh, I probably shouldn't do X, Y, Z." However, again, everything is a choice, and if you made the choice to, after countless treatments, after rehab, after whatever, not that you backslid, not that you made a mistake, not that you whatever, if you made the choice to hurt someone in favor of this drug, I have an issue with you. I'm not judging. I'm not saying like, oh, how dare you, evil monster. I get it, but like to give an example of what I'm talking about, I personally know somebody who has abandoned their children on multiple occasions because they would rather go do meth.
Yeah.
And I get it. Meth's a crazy drug. I get it. I get that it tears you up inside. I get that it destroys your brain. I get that, like, neurophysiologically, when you do it so much, you actually can't experience, like, it burns up the part of your brain that gives you happiness to a certain degree. And it's insane. Like, I totally understand that. You have 4 children that are relying on you for food. And if you are going to just decide that today they don't eat anymore and they're just going to live, by themselves and change their own diaper because you want to go on a 4-day bender, that is a choice you made. There had to have been some time during that moment, during that whole time, at least once, you were like, these human beings aren't eating today. Cool. More meth, please. And like you need to be held accountable for that. I'm not trying to say you're a bad, terrible, evil person because you were addicted to something, but you do have work to do to make that better.
Yeah, and I would say you can even take that further and say, like, yeah, maybe you do, because you're addicted to this substance, you lack the free will to course correct, so to speak. You can't blame the children.
Exactly.
The children are there through no fault of their own.
Yep.
That's the worst thing about children, is that they didn't ask for it.
It's the worst thing about children.
It is, because if they were like, yes, I want to be born, you could be like, hey,
not today, champ.
or like, I told you,
Yeah.
I said before you were born, I said it would be like this.
you decided to come into this hellhole.
Listen. But it's really, nobody chooses.
Right.
Like, we're all born. And so it just fucking happens one day, and then you wake up, and then they immediately start pumping the shit into you. Trying to fucking, like, fill you up with all kinds of useless information. And then you have to delete all that for 20 years. But, like, it's like...
Wasn't that a TikTok trend where it's like, hey, I went to school in America.
Yeah,
I don't know how to do my taxes, but I do know how to hide from an active shooter. Oh, fuck the fact that that's a reality.
And the thing is really, unfortunately, because it's a reality, we need to teach kids not to hide from the shooter, but to, what? Mass attack the shooter.
Shooter is attack back.
Yeah, everyone has
if everybody bum brushes them, they can't take you all out.
They cannot take you all out. That's the only way to deal with it, because we're not getting rid of the guns. So we're going to have to start swarming people.
Apparently now teachers get guns too, so they can fight back.
I promise if we all...
You're all short, they'll shoot over your head.
We all just get on the same page. We all agree. If we're ever involved in a shooting, we have to swarm the shooter. The gunman has to be swarmed by every able-bodied person in a fucking 2-mile radius. I guarantee you people start thinking fucking twice before they start walking around with their guns trying to shoot up schools and shit. It's like, oh, did you see what happened to fucking Tommy? Those 8th graders kicked his shit in. They weren't having it. Yeah, he got one of them. But that dude's recovering in the hospital. He couldn't focus fire. There were too many kids. Then the principal jumped on him.
He couldn't reload fast enough. Now he's eating through a tube.
And like, this is funny, but like, it's not funny. That's really awful that's where we're at. But that is in fact where we're at. Like, seriously, you have to attack the gunman.
Oh my god.
Otherwise, they're going to keep shooting people until somebody shows up with a gun. And then he'll probably shoot the wrong guy.
This can't be the advice we give people. Oh,
I'm no expert. Fixed it.
Just keep putting that.
Fixed it. It needs to be at the beginning of every
Put an
show.
asterisk. We don't know how to handle an active shooter.
No.
But in our experience...
which is none. I've been around like a shooting, but I never really noticed it. So I work in the mall, And there was a gentleman that like accidentally misfired his gun in the food court and then left. He like shot himself in the leg, and then I didn't know.
And just
about
carried
it.
on outside.
There's been a couple times there was like a gunfight in the parking lot, and we find out about it on the news later. Don't know about it until way later, and I'm like, oh, that's why everybody left.
Yeah.
That's why nobody's up here buying.
Because everybody has guns, and that's just how it is. And that's like, I don't want to come down against the concept of guns. I own a gun, you know. But, like, I'm never going to carry it to the fucking mall.
But also, like, you know, you got to think, those people didn't choose to buy those guns, Forrest. It was their experience.
Of being raised in a culture of fear where they're taught every day that somebody's going to come mug you because your redneck ass is so important and you need to carry a gun with you at all times. Yeah. It's the misinformation.
I really like when people come from like rural Oklahoma and they come and they try to talk to me about like what it's like in Tulsa. And I'm like, well, I mean,
been here, so
yeah, like I haven't had that happen to me yet. So there's that. They're like, yeah, man, you'll get robbed on every corner. Oh, I'm like every corner in Tulsa, like not. Come on.
I don't think there has been a robbery on every corner in Tulsa yet. There's been like, there's just not enough robberies
like,
going around in Tulsa.
Even, like, I'm not trying to pretend there aren't parts of town that like are like a little worse off.
Oh, for sure.
And there's usually deep-seated reasons for that.
Yeah.
In every town, in every city, in every state in the country. So, you know.
But like that's
lots of reasons for that.
But that's
and again, that feeds into it. If you're born into that situation, what's the likelihood that you won't go to prison?
Right.
If you're born in the least. What are the right words?
Sorry to be popping my knuckles into the thing here. Sorry about that.
If you're born in a city or an area of a city that is very, like we were talking about last week, like a minority area where it's over policed.
Yeah.
Underprivileged. There's nothing going on. They don't do enough there.
And it's only a minority area, quote, because they've been pushed out through gentrification for generations.
And they're doing things like
time.
moving all the grocery stores further and further away. And people like to argue and say, well, it's because you can't run a business there because you'll blah, 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 blah.
Yeah,
blah.
exactly.
And it's, to some extent, sometimes I can be like, look, I see what you're saying.
Right.
There is a higher crime rate here.
Because there's no other opportunity. And so, like, people have to make a living somehow.
You're like, well, maybe people would put more jobs there if people would work. And it's like, well, if there's only one job in an area.
Exactly,
and two people get that job.
What job are they going to go just get to go start? I remember living in North Tulsa, and there was
like,
literally
they got to commute. It's like they can't commute. You can't commute if you don't have a fucking car or a bike.
Where I lived, there was one bus stop within like a 12-mile radius, and also like one grocery store and like $2 Generals. Like I literally had to drive 15 minutes to go get fresh produce from my house. And like right next to my house was Section 8 housing. It was a Tulsa Housing Authority. And these people most of them don't have cars. Like there's like you said, there's two jobs within 12 square miles. Like, what are you going to get? Food?
But you know what? I like to say there's another place in Oklahoma that I've lived where I've seen this type of setup, and I don't think enough people fucking think about it. I used to live in a town called Newkirk, Oklahoma.
Oh, Lord.
It is a tiny little town. It's no bigger than a mile. I mean, it's bigger, but like there's a road. You can literally drive through the town in a second and not realize it. It's a fine enough place, but this is a place where the poor people are extremely poor. And the few people who have money are very well off.
Right.
There is middle class. There's plenty of middle class people there for how big it is. But like it's, you know, I mean, but like really most people were poor. When I lived in Newkirk, I lived in a tiny little 2-bedroom house that like was essentially a shack. There were like lots of problems. And like, I mean, we lived on like $600 a month.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
If that. And that's me taking into account the food stamps.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we were just, and one of the reasons is because my mother wasn't like, she's not like a highly educated woman. She's not unintelligent, but she just she didn't pursue much higher education or anything. She spent most of her time working like normal jobs. Like most people work.
Yeah.
The majority of people have these types of jobs.
Right.
You know, working in a restaurant, working food service, groceries, you know, things like that. Her skill set, she could do any normal like task like that. There's no jobs in Newkirk, Oklahoma.
Right.
There's a mechanic shop that needs a couple people. There's 2 convenience stores. There's a Sonic.
I've been there.
There's a teacher.
I taught out there a couple of times.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you've been there, so you've seen it.
Yeah.
So there's the high school, so there's staff for that. There's the courthouse, there's staff for that. There's a handful of police officers. You got the judges and stuff. Most of the people there that would have good jobs are working for the city. Mm-hmm. And there's still not that many of them. So, I mean, like, it's a very small place, and it's very easy for poor people to be poor and get poorer and stay poor, and it's very hard to get out of that.
You know what, though, also, and this is not at all what we're talking about, but it's on the same topic a little bit, and I want to throw this out there just for fun, because we talked about you talked about these areas of town that are usually very high population of minorities, and that we were like, oh, we should get rid. A second ago I was talking about like, oh, I wonder why these people are eating so shitty. Oh, this all that. The vast majority, the poorest people in my life that I've met, that they're in these situations, were white. And they're the same people who say, why don't they go get a job and just, why don't black people do this and this and this to get rich?
Which is what I'm getting to. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I don't mean
you're fine. But I'm not like cutting you off, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like, those people actually have much more in common with each other.
Yeah.
Than they... Like,
they're getting kicked by the same boot.
My mind.
One of them is choosing to lick it in return.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's weird.
It's bizarre.
Weird. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm not saying like if you live in a rural area, you need to like completely flip all your opinions and go like totally full libtard or anything. But I'm saying like, think about it.
Yeah.
Think about
why you're there and why your life is what it is.
Think about the situations that are holding you back, and then just empathize a little bit and realize that somebody born, just because they're born in a city where they're technically closer to more opportunity, doesn't mean it's as easy as you think it is.
Right.
Like, I'm extremely fortunate. There's opportunity everywhere, even right now, for somebody like me. Not everybody
young, handsome Syrian lad. Go get a job anywhere.
I can sneak into a lot of places. But like... But yeah, so like I mean, but there are opportunities. Yeah. I can go get a job. If I lost this job, I don't want to. I like my job. It's good enough. I like it. Yeah. But if something happened and I couldn't work there anymore, I could go find another job. Right. And I have enough resources to be able to get around and find it. Yeah.
And that puts you, head and shoulders above most other people that
I own a laptop.
That you're huge. You're huge.
And that I have a smartphone in my pocket.
Yeah.
Those two things give me such an advantage. And like it's only been the past couple of years that I've even started to realize plus capitalize on that advantage. Right. But like it's there. A lot of people don't have that.
That's another thing also. And I know this isn't what you were saying, but I like it reminded me when people complain, they're like, well, this homeless guy has an iPhone. He probably had it before he got homeless. If you became homeless, would you throw your phone away? Or would you keep your phone? Like, what's wrong with you? What? Just because he has a nice thing, what are you going to go sell that for $30?
I'd probably throw everything but the phone away.
Exactly. Like, oh my god. Anyway, sorry. I know it's not exactly. I know it's not what you're saying. It's just the point is like.
But it is because there's opportunity. It is part of it because there is a lot of opportunity. Sometimes a lot of people have opportunity and they can't even see it. Yeah. Because of how disillusioned they are with everything going on.
And I feel like this again, it plays into how, to say, the same broken record over and over, the way we grew up is the way that we look at this, because poverty brings with it diversity. Impoverished areas are usually very diverse. I grew up surrounded by different ethnicities, different nationalities, different languages, different religions, different food. My family made it a point. We would go to every cultural and religious festival we possibly could. I think I took you to the Hindu temple in Broken Arrow a couple of times, didn't I? Yeah. And it's
really pretty.
It's beautiful out there. And went to the Buddhist temple and just hung out for a while. It's amazing food. And like that gave me the social intelligence to understand that everybody is going through the same thing. Everybody wants the same thing. And I don't look at these people as different people. I look at them as people. Yeah. And like, I feel like the people who grow up in these very underserved, impoverished parts of the world, or parts of the country, at least you could say, they are cheated out of the opportunity to see how all other poor people are. And so they assume that it's somebody else's fault, or it's the other poor people's fault that they are also poor, rather than, I forgot what the phrase is, that like, a politician's job is to earn $100,000 a year to tell people earning $50,000 a year that the people earning $20,000 a year are earning too much or something like that. You know what I mean? And like that's a ridiculous system that we're still having to fight through. And what gives me hope about that is that we live in an era of mass communication. Now more than ever, if our dumbasses can get on the internet and say things and people can hear it, then anybody can. And when you look back at all of the best revolutions across history, the Enlightenment is my favorite. What made it happen was increased ability to share ideas. More ideas were being published. The civil rights movement wasn't going to work in America except for TV. And people saw on the TV like, hey, these people are like just sitting on the ground and the police are beating them. In the newspaper, it says they're violent, crazy, evil people, but I'm watching it with my own eyes on TV. That's why the civil rights movement worked. The Enlightenment worked because people were able to share. I think today, and we're suffering through the same dumbass issues. When I was out protesting for Black Lives Matter, I still had people come up to me like, oh, you're all burning and looting and murdering. I'm like, dude, I am literally standing on a street corner with a sign telling you to quit being so racist. Who am I fucking murdering? And like, we still have the same bullshit that we're fighting through, but we have YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and every other thing that we can all show each other. Here's our lives. Here's our experiences. Here's how I'm living. Here's what I'm dealing with. You're not alone. And I think that rapid sharing of ideas is going to bring about the next revolution. And I am confident when I say I think you and I are going to live through it. And that makes me very, very hopeful. It makes me very happy to think about like our parents and grandparents, the flower children that were, trying for this same revolution 30 years ago, and they were 40. God, it would have been longer. This would be like 50 years ago now. Fuck, I keep forgetting it's 2020 something.
We're getting old.
We are very old. But like these people that were our age trying to start a revolution back in the 60s and 70s are now the seeds that they planted. We can see those starting to come true a little bit, and that makes me very happy. You know what I mean?
It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because a lot of them have, changed some of their opinions.
Right.
I don't know. You change as you grow older.
You change as you old.
you do that. You do that. But yeah, I to come back to it, I think it's really interesting that there's like poverty is everywhere.
Yeah.
And not being able to distinct like people, not like rural white lower class people, not being able to look at what's going on and say like, oh, that could be me. That is basically me.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit different, or it's in a different area.
Yeah.
The setting is different. The consequences and the destruction is the same.
Right. And
you still have plenty of people in like a rural area that are all white and they're all having the same struggle as like an inner city family would. Yeah. With like drug addiction, and drug addiction is just one thing. Right. Fucking violence, drug addiction, rape, murder, all of it. And it's all, and the more it happens, the more it makes.
Yeah, exactly.
The more it causes.
Sows more evil into the world.
Yeah, and it goes on. You just have less people out there. It doesn't make the news as much. Right. But it's still going on. Like, I have plenty of stories of things that I learned about or knew about or saw when I lived in Newkirk that were not good. Right. That were very bad.
To say the least.
Yeah, and so, I mean, like, so it happens everywhere. Yeah. And that's the worst part, is that, like, people are isolating themselves for no reason.
Right. They're putting themselves on an island instead of seeing that everybody's going through the same shit.
We're all in it together in one form or another.
And I think it comes down to, and there's no way to say this without sounding patronizing. So going into this, please understand, audience, I mean this well. It is a lack of education. And it's not that they're stupid. It's not that they're choosing to be idiots. It's that they have been lied to, and now they are suffering the consequences of having been lied to. If you've been told, like, I've met a dude who went to school in Tennessee, and he called the Civil War the War of Northern Aggression. He's an adult man, and he said, oh, well, yeah, just because the North was trying to take away the states' rights, and that's all it was, just the North, because that's how he was taught it in school. And I was like, the states' rights to do what exactly? and he'd never really thought about that.
Yeah,
but
no.
like it's because oh no, it's about trade, it's about economy, it's about never mind the fact that the Articles of Secession say specifically, the right to keep whatever. But like that, I've met people who think these ways. And like it's because that's how they were taught when they were kids. It's because they were brought up in this way. Jane Elliott has said, several times, if you are a white person in America, you were raised in America, and you are not somehow racist, like you don't have those seeds in you, it's a miracle. And that's not to say that you are a mean, cruel, hateful person. It's that you have been taught these things. Whether or not you prescribe to them, they have been put in you.
Yes.
You've been poisoned a little bit. And it's like, to say that you just, woke up and you never suffered the consequence of this, no. You still have to suffer the scars, the trauma of growing up in the system that taught you that you were somehow superior because of who you are.
And I have had to let go of certain opinions, like over the years. I've had to evaluate myself and say, "Oh, this is a bad thought."
Me too. This is because this is what I was taught in 3rd grade, and now I think about it for more than one fucking second, and I'm like, "Oh no, this doesn't make any fucking sense at all, does it?"
That's wrong.
Yeah,
yeah.
And that's very common, and not enough people get the opportunity to do that. Not enough people know that they should. Like that's something I encourage everybody to do: is take your most deep-seated personal beliefs and just question them. Because even if it's a good thing, even if it's a good belief you have, question it. Because like we talked about last week, if it's a good, truly good thing, it'll stand up on its own merit.
Yeah.
And if you're struggling with it, go talk to people about it. Have that conversation, because it's better to have that conversation and potentially get rid of a bad idea than to never have that conversation for fear of like being a problem or offending somebody and perpetuating bullshit for the next generation to have to deal with.
Exactly. That's beautifully said.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I still want to figure out how to get back to prisons, though.
Oh,
we have been all over the place in this episode. Which, to be fair, that is kind of the format of the show.
I like it because, like, we started
Just
off on
to let
free
us
will,
wander a little
and
bit.
everything we've touched on, even prison stuff, it hasn't even come back to free will. It's just come back to like what your experience does to your mind
And how that changes you, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Like we've been all over, but there is a central theme. It's not free will exactly, but that's in there. It's just it's not. It's just yeah. There's.
I think the central theme of this episode has been like experience shapes reality.
Yeah.
Which is close
And some
to
people's
perception is reality.
Some people's experiences involve prison. Go.
So the prison system, as we've already said, is pretty fucked up.
And that's the episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching.
I think we still have some time. we have very little time. But we still have some time.
Like 10, 20 minutes.
So the prison system, privatized prisons, we know are awful.
Right.
We live in Oklahoma, and I don't know what's going on now with it, but I know that we give a lot of money to Geo Group.
Mm-hmm.
I know that our previous governor, Mary Fallon, worked out some pretty massive deals with Geo Group.
Yep.
And so
they wasn't
Geo
that
Group is like a massive fucking deal.
Prison corporation?
Yeah, they're a huge prison company.
When in 2018, I believe it was, we had the teacher walkout, and all the teachers marched on the Capitol. I was with them.
Yeah, my wife protested with them here somewhere.
Yeah, I was all over the place.
Tulsa,
I was all over the place with it because
Memorial.
I was so big of a... Because, like, we had representatives getting on... There was that one idiot who got on Facebook Live and was like, while you're acting like this, I'm not going to give one more damn thing to teachers if you're going to behave this way. And, like, dude, you are the problem then, if that's what you're going to think. Anyway... But at the same time that we were like,
students were in favor too.
Yeah,
so like, come on.
Yeah, because like we can't keep schools open for 5 days a week in Oklahoma. A lot of school districts have 4-day school weeks. We have textbooks that don't mention 9/11 because it hadn't happened yet when the textbook was published. We have textbooks that don't mention freaking George Bush at all. Like that whole administration's gone. We like things are held together with glue and tape. We have schools that don't have air conditioning. We have schools that don't have heating. We have schools that don't have like chalkboards and erasers. You can literally look up schools that have like mold and shit growing. It's crazy. And so the teachers protested. And at the same time that was happening, while the Oklahoma government was telling people, we can't afford to fix schools, we can't afford anything, we were at like 110% capacity with our prison system. So we built 3 more prisons. At the same time that they were saying we cannot educate your children, we built 3 more prisons in the state that has the highest per capita incarceration in the country that has the highest per capita incarceration in the world.
And I'm sure you can pull up statistics and see that places that have less education
have higher incarceration.
Have higher
They
incarceration.
tend to have that issue. And like that's exactly. And so they're like, hey, instead of
Free
solving the
will.
problem, we're gonna make more of the problem. It's gonna be great.
But they know it. That they have to know.
But they're making money hand over fist knowing it.
I know, but they have to know. Like, there's no way you don't know what you're doing, and that's hurting people. Like, that's not choosing just one type of person to hurt. That's hurting all of us.
Right. And that's that. But that's the end of the day. They've got a paycheck.
We also have there's some really interesting facts about women's female incarceration in Oklahoma too that you should look into.
We also have the highest rates of female incarceration. In fact, specifically, we have more incarcerated women than anywhere else in the world. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty bad.
It's bonkers.
And it's usually because they got tired of being abused.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10. It's oh my god, it's sick here. It's really really sick here. It's frustrating and it's disheartening because
most women aren't gonna kill somebody even if they're being abused. So you got to think what type of abuse it takes to finally
to make her snap. Gosh.
And there's and they just send them to prison.
Yeah.
Which I sometimes maybe they do need to go to prison because they did actually it was like a murder, But sometimes I think we need to look at things a little bit better and be like, well, look at the circumstance. And I know that that's a thing that happens, but I don't think it happens here very often.
Right.
I don't know.
I just think that I think that in a normal, sane universe, bad people will do the worst that they can. Good people will do the best that they can. I think that most people are generally good people. But the circumstances that we have set up for them kind of leaves no other option than bullshit. And if you do manage to escape poverty, and you do manage to escape, if your family has been incarcerated for generations, and you have all if you do manage to break that cycle, you are a goddamn hero. And it is I think your responsibility to go out and try to do the work to make sure that nobody else has to go through. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's crazy to even people don't often break that cycle.
That's not to tell anybody how to live their life.
And we can talk about being positive and breaking family cycles, right? That's a big one that especially this generation coming up under us is very big on, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
You should break your fucking
just because somebody's related to you doesn't mean that they're right. Doesn't mean that you have to do it
and try to change and examine stuff and not pass the curse on to the next generation.
Exactly.
That's amazing. I think my generation barely caught on to that idea, and we're working on it, but we're working on it a little bit late.
You and I have both cut out people from our families,
and
they're awful.
And I think the people, and I'm not even just talking about cutting people out. I'm talking about changing yourself, recognizing the behaviors that you have, from your childhood,
as a result of your family,
and trying to break those and not pass those on. Yeah, that's wonderful. But my main point with that, I guess, I think what I was trying to say was a lot of people can't do that, or they can, but they feel that they can't do it, and they're hopeless. And when you're hopeless, it's really hard to keep going and do it or change or do any kind of thing that's going to make your life better because you're hopeless. You can't see the future. If you can't see the future, you don't have anything to strive for. Right. So and it's like that, and it's getting worse. Because I don't want to say the economy's getting worse because the economy's kind of fine. There might be some impending doom, but
there always is.
The economy chugs
capitalism.
Along,
it always is.
But the gap is widening.
Yeah,
you'll hear people like Bernie Sanders talk about the gap and how it's getting bigger, and the median income has stayed the same, and CEO pay is rising. Right. There's a lot of reasons that CEOs are getting paid more. One of it being fucking inflation. Right. So if they're adjusting their own income to match inflation. What are we going to do about these people down here? And if you make this chunk bigger, well, now you're increasing the pool of people who feel hopeless. So the pool of people who feels hopeless is expanding, ever expanding.
You know what's interesting is there's been a study done several times where they will ask people, especially conservative people who consider themselves fiscally conservative and they don't want socialism and they're not going to they'll ask people what do you think is the wealth distribution in America? They'll put percentages on it. And it's
I've seen these graphs.
And they're like, here's this much money for the top 1%, here's this much money for the top 50, 49%, whatever, and here's for the rest of us, and here's the lower class. And they'll make this, it's not perfectly, everybody has the same. It's skewed a little bit. And that's fine. And they'll
It
say,
was
okay,
very correct.
now where do you think it should be? And they'll bring it down a little bit more towards equality. And they're like, okay, so you think that it's fucked up. Like, yeah, a little bit, but not.
little
and then
bit.
like, okay, cool. Here's what it actually is. And the part for the 1% just blows through the roof, and everything that they had is so tiny. And they're like, do you see now that it's not even within 1/100th of 1% of what you had? It's not even close to how bad you thought it was. It's certainly not as close to where you think it should be. It is completely fucked. And they're like, oh yeah, but no socialism though. And it's like,
Because I might eventually get there.
Exactly, because that's the lie that's fed to them, is that you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps,
And it's like,
even if you can't afford shoes.
Maybe, but at what fucking cost?
Exactly.
Also, not really. Like the idea that like anybody can become like super rich or super like just anybody can do it as long as they try hard enough. Hard work and dedication will get you very far.
Sure.
It will get you very far. It's not going to get you into the 1% necessarily. Almost never.
You know what does, though?
Almost never.
Generational wealth.
Oh!
Yeah.
Which is another word I feel like people have just recently picked up on.
Yeah. Because they're like, oh, well, look at, what was it, Trump. You know, Trump, he's got a big business. He's a billion. He's made all his money. He started out with $1 million as a gift and declared bankruptcy a bunch of times, and then had his parents bail him out a bunch of. You do that. You go start $1 million business with him, like just now. Go do it. Show how easy it is. Oh, you can't because you don't have a fucking $1 million from your dad. Cool. Me neither. Maybe we're on the same page. It turns out.
Yeah. Like it's not as easy as just go do it. It's not. It's also not impossible.
It's like
but it's so minuscule. The chances of you getting there are so small.
J.P. Morgan was the same way. It's back in the 18 or early 19 or whatever the hundreds. This guy started, Morgan Chase, which is now just called Chase Bank, but one of the original billionaires, one of the guys who started the Federal Reserve. His father gave him $1 million when he was like 10 years old. It was like, feel the weight of it, boy. Know what this is like, because this is what you're going to do with your life. And then people were like, oh, wow, he's a business genius. No, he was born rich as dicks, and he was taught how to continue being rich as dicks for his whole life. And then he died rich as dicks. Yeah. And don't look up to him, is what I'm saying.
And I can't even say that that's like wrong, because I want to do that for my kids. I want to make sure I leave them enough that they can do whatever the fuck they want, essentially.
But I would never, ever, ever. I want to make sure, if I ever do reproduce, I want to make sure that they have enough money to do whatever they need to do to survive.
Yeah.
I don't ever, ever want to fuck my kids over by giving them millions of dollars like that.
Yeah, not millions of dollars, but I'm talking about like a college fund.
Sure.
Go
like
to
the
school. Stuff you should do as a responsible parent.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I'm
just
saying
give
that
them
like
enough money, or like not. Let's say they don't go to school, but let's say I want to give them each like, here's some money to start with.
I would never want my kids to know how much money we have as a family, because I don't want them. I don't want them taking advantage of that.
That's
you know what
fair.
I mean?
Well,
I don't want them.
Like
I don't want them
they have
either.
No idea. They don't even know what money is.
Right. Excuse me. I don't want them to be.
They're like,
scared.
$300, you have that, right, Dad? And I'm like,
I don't want them to be scared of not having enough. I don't want them to be cocky and thinking that they have a bunch. I want them to know what money is for sure and how to use it for sure. But like when I die, I want their inheritance to be a shock. I don't want them to be like, fine, I'll have this much money soon. I want them to go out and put the work in. And I want to. I think it would be really cool to deliberately like make them, I don't want to say make them struggle, but like you need to go out and pay your own bills and pay your own car and get your own job and everything for a few years, at least until you're like 25, 26, so that you know what that's like before you get any kind of money. Like, I don't care if I die when you're 7. You're going to work your ass off for at least 10 years before you get an inheritance, because you need to know what it's like to suffer and struggle like everybody else. I don't care how rich I am. You know what I mean? If I become a millionaire someday and somehow have that much money for some reason, which fuck that anyway. But in the instance where I have a bunch of money, I'm gonna make sure that my offspring know what it's like to actually work really hard and struggle and be scared and have to fight for what you, because they need to know what everybody else is going through. You know what I mean?
think that's fair. I think it's I think it's smart.
It makes you a better person. It makes you more empathetic.
Yeah,
it gives you more free will to have these experiences.
Does it give you free will?
It gives you more opportunity to make better choices.
That's all. Yeah. So free will is literally non-existent. All you can do is cross your fingers. That's what we've realized. All you can do is cross your fingers and hope that you've had the right experiences.
Or what I'm trying to promote is go get more experiences.
Go get more experiences is a lot better than
because you only
hope you have enough.
Exactly. Because you only have the tools that you start with. You only have the choices that you know to make. So go figure out more of them. Go read more books. Go meet more people. Go do more things. I'm not saying go out and do YOLO shit. Go live, get a tattoo and jump off a cliff. I'm saying go make more friends. And learn why you're dumb.
For some people, that experience, the more experiences, one of them is prison. So going to
We've
prison
gone to prison 4 times. What do you want to say about prison?
I'm just saying, prison actually is an experience that changes people, and some people come out better,
and some people come out worse.
But the system is still horribly broken.
Yeah.
So we need to figure out. All I'm saying about prison is that it's not good. And we need to find a better way to rehabilitate people. And also, I really hope I see that happen in my lifetime.
Coming out of prison is also a bitch and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Because now you have to check this box on your job applications.
50% trying to get you back in as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
You come out of prison, it's like for a lot of people, you come out of prison, you fuck up even a little bit, you're going back. Even a tiny bit.
Yeah.
If you make one human mistake, you're fucked. 25 more years. You don't give a shit. And it's like, that's terrifying to me. The idea of going to prison is terrifying to me. Like, because I also first of all, I don't think I would ever do anything wrong, but the idea of being put in prison or wrongly accused is scary.
Yeah.
Because nobody's gonna believe you.
Exactly. If you have a kangaroo court where they're just gonna decide what they've already made up their minds because of how you look, where you come from, what your name is, whatever. Did you see that? It was a thing from The Onion. Where they were like, there was this young white girl due to the severity of the crime, we are going to try her as a middle-aged black man, and that's how we're going to treat her. And they're like, no one deserves to be treated like a black man. This is unconstitutional.
Yeah, which is
Isn't it? I remember hearing a statistic recently that black males in particular are the highest rate of exonerations. They're sent to prison wrongly and exonerated later. Yeah. And they have the highest percentage of exonerations because we come back 20 years down the line like, oh yeah, no, we fucked up. Sorry. You want $1 million paycheck, a little bit, you go back and enjoy the time you didn't get to spend with your kids. Sorry.
Yeah, and everybody always says the same thing, which is the money is nice, but
yeah, exactly. Because how much money can I give you to take 20 years of your life away?
Yeah,
honestly,
none.
If I told you, if I told you were going to die in 20 years, but here's $50, what are you going to do? I'm not into it, man.
Well, just not even death. Just you'll get don't worry. At the end of the 20 years, you get to you come back out and live
and again. Do things. Yeah,
yeah, and it'll be fine. And we're all gonna be real sorry.
Never mind the fact
in the first place.
Never mind the fact that for these 20 years, you're going to be treated like a fucking animal. And just completely just debased and dehumanized and that won't leave any emotional scars on you. Don't worry about that.
It's insane, and that happens to a lot of people.
A lot of people.
And things need to be changed. But even if we have a almost perfect legal system, that's still gonna happen from time to time.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. We got a lot of work to do.
There's a lot of things that need to change, and I don't really know how we're going to do it with a complete and utter lack of free will, Forrest.
You know what, though? We got time to figure it out. When we rise to power, we will make things better. It'll be great.
Yeah. I seem to remember some sort of master plan involving, planets being destructed.
Don't even get me started. Because the people who listen to my TikToks and shit, I've screamed that at them before. We'll cover that. We'll cover my master plan maybe next week.
It'll all be very simple.
It is remarkably simple.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
For the good of all humanity.
Of the plan.
We're going to destroy
Well, I had
Mercury.
a lot of fun. This has been a good... I think we definitely kind of like... We went all over the map on this one.
I loved it.
But I had a really fun time with the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't wait to do it again.
Let me know in the comments below what else you want us to talk about. I saw one person say they want to hear some science things, which... It's too comfortable, but we're going to inevitably touch on it because that's literally my job.
We can talk about science because I don't have a science background. So for you, it's comfortable.
I'm just talking about work.
Yeah, but for me, like I'm actually learning, which
Right.
is great.
That's
and then
fun.
the second thing is I can come at it from the standpoint of a complete dumbass and not know what I'm talking about.
The same way that we just did for everything for 2 episodes.
And then you can explain that to me and make it make sense, and then I'll be like, "Oh, I'm dumb." And then maybe people
can have that
people
revelation for
will
90 minutes.
Respond to that, and people will engage with that content. So I don't know. I don't know how this works. I would like. So I did. I love the comments on the last one. All of them. You're all very special to me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I would like if we can get some more comments.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you're like doing all the whatevers to subscribe and everything.
Click that. Click that.
Fuck that bell to death.
Make sure to
we're gonna have to edit that out.
thumb
That
the
was
subscribe button.
But it is though
Like
for real though.
the-
You do need to click if you want notifications. If you don't want notifications, don't do it. Right? But if you do want to get notified whenever this guy puts a thing out,
Make sure to click the bell.
you should click the bell and put always or for everything or
You
always sometimes.
know how to use.
They actually don't. Statistically, it's been proven that they have no idea how to subscribe and
No.
like and share and any of that. That you have to tell them or they won't be able to do it.
I tell you what.
Facebook is an application that you can usually found on your smartphone.
No, here's what I want to do. If you, and this is genuine, if you liked listening to this podcast, actually just take the time to click the like button. Because I like a lot of things that I see on YouTube. I really do. I very rarely actually click the damn button.
I've actually gotten in the habit of being pretty persistent with like if I like something.
I've been trying to make it a habit too. On TikTok and Instagram and on YouTube, I've tried doing that more. And it actually does make a difference, number one, for my algorithm. And number two, it makes a difference for the creators. So just give it a try. Maybe you'll like it. Click that like button and see how it feels. If it makes you feel tingly inside, do it again next time you listen to us.
And definitely, if you have any topics, I don't care how weird they sound or anything, because
Worst case
it's up to us
scenario,
if we talk about it,
we'll incorporate it
out
somehow
there.
strangely.
If you have a topic and you don't want to put it on like a public comments,
You can,
I don't know about you, but you can definitely message me privately from my Facebook page.
and you can message me on Instagram, and it goes to my DMs that are they're like message requests. I see them, I just don't respond to most of them, but I'll see it probably.
Yeah, so
send me a thing.
So send
or through my website.
Find a way.
Go to
I'm out there, so you can
renegadescienceteacher.com.
find us.
Put a thing in the thing. I've got a contact page on that.
That way, if you don't feel comfortable talking about the topic on the comment section, and you still want us to talk about it or maybe think about it at least, that would be cool too.
How do I make my dick smaller? It's too big. I need help. Please talk about this on the next podcast. We'll help you.
Well, now I'm going to research that.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of I'm Not Comfortable With This. It got real weird, and I can't wait for next week. I'm Forrest.
I'm Ben.
And I hope you have an awesome rest of your day. That's it. Bye!
Bye. You look at the camera when you say that.
Oh, no. We'll cut to that here. During my undergrad, for my research, I had to skin a lot of humans, and I was good at it.
Oh my God.